Let's talk about the speech generating app called Proloquo2Go. There are a couple of different Proloquos. So there's an app called Proloquo that is not this app. This one is Proloquo2Go. And then there's also an app called Proloquo for Text, which we'll talk about in a different video. Proloquo2Go is an app where you can easily change the screen size. So if I go to settings, I can edit the appearance by changing the grid size. For example, right now we're on 6:10. I can make it bigger, like 7:11, which gives more options per page, or I could make it smaller, like 5:9, which gives fewer options per page. In general, a larger grid size, like 7:11, will make navigation easier for any AAC user. We want to find the smallest buttons that an AAC user can reasonably press and see, because the more buttons you have per page, the fewer touches it will take to say your final message. So to orient you to Proloquo2Go, similar to a lot of the other apps, you'll see this subject, verb, object organization that mimics the way that we make statements in English. However, this app by default uses a different color coding system, whereas most of the apps use the Fitzgerald key, where pronouns are yellow and verbs are green. Proloquo2Go uses a modified Fitzgerald key, but you can change back to the regular one in settings. The symbol system in Proloquo2Go uses symbol sticks, which is the same system used by TouchChat with WordPower, and is also a symbol system that many disabled individuals are familiar with, because it's the symbol system owned by the same organization that owns Boardmaker. And lots of teachers, educators, and providers use Boardmaker to make visuals for individuals with learning differences. So sometimes an AAC user might be familiar with this type of symbol before they use an AAC device, which can inform our evaluation process. Proloquo2Go has, on the home page, like many of the apps, a lot of core words. These are the most common words that we use to communicate every day. And then at the bottom, you'll see folders where you can talk about different topics. The folders are actually shaped like a folder, so it gives you a little bit more of a visual cue that you are going into a folder versus some of the other apps. And when you go into a folder, this app maintains some of the core or kind of important common words that might be relevant to talk about that topic. So if I go to actions, you can see that some of the words stayed the same, like some of the pronouns I, you, we. Some of the verbs stayed the same, like do, have, want, like, need. And some of the buttons changed. You can see that it brought up some action words that might be commonly used, and some other words that we might want to pair with actions, as well as some more folders related to actions.
Need.
If you press the button, it stays on this same page.
I need.
So if you want to add anything additional, you'll have to navigate back home or to a different folder. This app makes it fairly easy to add grammar. However, it uses a different type of touch if you'd like to add grammar. So most of the apps only use a tap to say a word.
Say.
However, on Proloquo2Go, if the grammar inflection setting is on, if you push and hold a button, you'll get a pop-up that lets you change that word to be grammatically correct for what you might want to say.
help,
Oops, and that was a mishit. So I'm going to try again. I'm going
say,
to push and hold say,
said,
said. It does that for verbs. It also does that for pronouns
myself,
and for nouns.
homes,
Proloquo2Go also makes editing pretty easy. If we touch here, the edit pencil, it pops up this editing bar at the bottom. You can touch a button that you'd like to edit and make changes right here. You can change the color of multiple buttons, the text in multiple buttons, the visibility of multiple buttons, all at the same time, which is nice. Not all apps allow you to do that. The other thing you can do is if you're adding new buttons, you can change the button type to automatically apply the type of word that you're doing and the color within their color-coded system for what you might want the word to be used for. And that includes the grammar. So if I make this button a noun, it will let me push and hold and do plural and possessive for a person or a place or a thing. But if I make this button a verb, it will change the color to be the verb color, which in this app is pink, and it will let me push and hold to get the correct grammar for present tense, past tense, and future tense.